Hi again. I am adding another video because I will be going on a trip soon with my grandparents, and it is to Glacier National Park. So we will be driving for quite a long time, and I'm not sure how much time I'll have to make videos. Now, reflecting, probably a lot, but can't multitask while I'm driving much. So 13%. It's the percentage of, excuse me, I didn't take my allergy medicines today. I know I sound like I have COVID now, right? So 13% is the percentage of the population that is or that identifies as Black or African American. Now, before I get into that, I recently posted a video in regards to phrenology. And the reason why race exists in America is because people of privilege, people in power, which happen to be white men, decided that race needed to be identified. So it all starts there. Now, and it goes into, and it's roots into everything that we have going on in the U.S. today. Some notes that are probably off topic, but people mention I'm sick of Black versus white. I am sick of COVID. I'm sick of, and that's fine. It's everybody feels a certain way, and you just need to be able to get those out. But then I reflect and I try to empathize, and it's like, well, I'm sure people are sick of, having to receive racist jokes, racist statements, implicit or explicit, what have you. So even though, like, as a white person or somebody of privilege, I can say, well, I'm sick of this, and I can be done with it. But people of color don't have that privilege to just be done with being Black, be done with being Latino, which, by the way, they had actually had Latino Hispanic listed a couple of years ago as a race, and they have since changed it to an ethnicity. So when your kids take tests and they have to indicate what race they are on their state mandated tests, it's different now. Okay, so the only races are white, Black, and then I think they go into some, Pacific Islander and stuff like that. But then, as far as race, is that still really a race? But that's what the people in power decide. So, or maybe we can. Anyways, so 13% of population. I've been thinking about, what it must be to be 13%. So there's a Black Lives Movement right now. 13% of the population is Black, but that doesn't mean that 13% of the population all believes the same thing. So there's a Black Lives Matter movement. And so just to make the number easy, I'm going to go with 10%. Okay, I'm going to say 10% of the population believes that changes need to occur. 10% of the Black population, at least. Okay, so if I'm thinking that 10% believe that change is necessary, how does that 10% go about change? They're not a majority, never will be. How do they get people to listen? How do they get people to advocate for them? How do they make a difference? And so I'm sure the answers are wide and varied. But just thinking, I'm thinking, man, if a group of people want something to be done, they definitely have to think the only way we're going to be able to do this is together, right? Because if one person is advocating for school, and the other person's advocating for voting rights, and other people are advocating for improvement to law enforcement, and then other people are focusing on women's rights, or, we can separate all of this out into like civil rights in general. But if it's all split up, how is it possible for change to happen? And so I just, even just being 50% of the population as a woman, men versus women, if you believe that or whatever, my husband would call me a feminist, and I would have to agree to some degree I am. But even at 50% of the population, I still feel like it's hard to make things happen. So, as far as this movement and everything that's going on, again, in a previous video, I said it's not or maybe it was a post, it's not me. I don't have the right to define what the Black Lives Movement is. Now, do I support people in fighting for rights that they feel they are due? Absolutely. Okay. Now, how they're going about it, it's not for me to decide. There are so many things that, do I believe that people should be killed? No. Do I believe in violence? No. Do I believe that people should be hurt? No. But how do you make a difference when you're only 10%? Who's going to listen? Who's going to make it matter? So, those are just things. I'm a very empathetic person, so much to the extent that when we watch movies, my daughter's like, "Are you gonna cry in this one?" And I just look at those situations and I think, what it must be like to be in that situation. Life is real, injustice is real, and to just be a 10% of the population, how do you affect or make change? So it's one of the things that I think about when the arguments go back and forth about, well, that's not the right way to do it. That's not the right way to do it. We should do it. That's not the right way to do it. And so it's like, okay, well then what's the right way? How do you want me to go about making change if you don't believe in the change that I'm asking for? So just a reflective piece. So when you think about groups of people, and I even think about this is hard for me because the people of color that I advocate for the most are Latino Hispanics. Okay, I struggle saying Latino Hispanic because those words don't define who they are appropriately. Okay, because they are Tejano, Chicano, Mexicano, Mexicano-Americano, Boricua, Cubano, it's so hard to just say Hispanic Latino because it's a group, but within that group, there are so many different ideas, perspectives, religion, or denominations that are followed, even though a majority is predominantly Catholic, but that is changing. So, and with Latinos and Hispanics, they're 18% of the population and growing. And so it's just interesting, I wonder, is if, the 13% and the 18% were to come together and say, hey, we're fighting in a similar capacity for things. How can we work together to get what we need? Because we are stronger together than we are separate. And, that's where whites come in too. And they say, hey, I support your mission. I support, what your goal is. How can I help you? How can we do better? And so the other things I think about too is like representation. So if 13% of the population is Black, African American, then do we have it represented, in our House or in our Senate? Do we have it represented? And I know that representation exists more so in like local, so mayors, and some law enforcement in certain areas. It exists. People of color, usually urban, but there are some rural areas that have that as well. But it's just one of those things that I think about, without the representation, how do you get change? Because president is an important role, but as I've grown in, I guess, whether it's a voting capacity or as a citizen of the United States of America, or however you want to kind of look at it, it's like the president isn't the key guy. It's not the difference maker in total. Now, should the president be responsible? Should they make good decisions? Should they choose their words wisely? Should they be somebody that we look up to? Yeah. There's all sorts, they have advisors, they have all sorts of people around them. They make decisions. So, judges, what judges are going to be in power, even though they're not supposed to be in power, they're supposed to, interpret the law according to the different situations that occur. But who is the president going to put into power? Those are the people I'm worried about. What choices is the president going to make, and who is he going to put in power? The other person I think about is, the Speaker of, not the Speaker of the House, but of the Senate. So the guy is Mitch McConnell right now. He seems to be one of he has the most power. He can say, yes, we're going to vote on that bill. No, we're not going to vote on that bill. Yes, we'll vote on that bill. No, we will not vote on that bill. And they can, and this is where that, we want our legislators to work together. We don't want them working separately. But anyways, back to the 13%. So we have our legislators who are working separately. 13% is not represented in our Senate and our House. So 13% of the population, 10% is not represented there. Okay. So that would mean, 10% of 400 and however many representatives, 10% of 50, so 5, anyways, do the math. Representation doesn't exist in our government, and that is important. So just again, think about representation, and how do people make a difference when there's so much to do and you just don't have enough voice for the people that you need to hear you. Have a good day, guys.